Hello, everyone, and welcome to the LFC Roundtable podcast. This is the podcast where we break down everything from the feeds. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and today I have the full Roundtable experience. First, we've got Melissa Deni. How you doing, Melissa?
I'm good. Today is a very special day. It's Kevin's birthday. I'm not sure if everyone's aware, but, you know, happy birthday, Kevin, and happy birthday to all of us, or I guess for Kevin's birthday.
Yes. Should we sing happy birthday in its entirety? Probably not.
Oh, God.
Also with me today is Alex Kidwell, who's got his wonderful backdrop behind him today. How you doing, Alex?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm out in my living room now because the computer I usually use decided it needed like a huge update right when we were starting this podcast. So I'm making it work on the laptop today. Hopefully we won't have any lingering issues, but if there are tech issues with this, just feel free to blame me. It's fine.
Yes, Alex was with us in New York, and he had a very entertaining journey to and from New York. I believe you were on a plane for what, over 15 hours?
Yeah, it should have been 5.5 hours nonstop from LA to New York. It was like a 15.5 hour nightmare that, you know, somebody pointed out to me, you could have gone to Italy. And I'm like, I wish I'd gone to Italy. Part of me, that sounds like something I could have done for sure.
He spent more time traveling than actually in New York. So let's go easy on Alex Kidwell tonight. Finally, we've got Brent Wolgamott. How you doing, Brent?
I'm excited. It's also a Feeds night, and it's American Ninja Warrior, so I know you'll be taping that later on because you do that sort of thing.
That is the sort of thing that I do. Yes, so we are here live every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern to argue about everything that's happening on the feeds. We have the chat room open on robbinswebsite.com, and you can send questions into me at Armstrong Taran on Twitter if you so desire. Let's get into all of the stuff that's been happening. We had Josh winning HOH, the wild card Josh, and pretty immediately he decides he wants to go after Elena, despite Paul's wishes, which is a bit of a surprise, I think, for a lot of people. We had Cody winning the temptation competition, Jessica losing the temptation competition. Then Josh ends up nominating Elena and Mark. Christmas then uses the ring of replacement to stop Cody from competing in the veto, and which ultimately Mark wins, takes himself down, and Raven is the replacement, and that is where we are right now. But let's talk about this plan of Josh's to take out Elena instead of Jessica, despite everything going on here. Melissa, how do you feel about this plan? Do you think it's a smart move for Josh? Are you optimistic about the fact that he's not listening to Paul anymore?
I love the plan. I think it's great. I don't quite know why Josh is super keen on the plan because I feel like it's kind of, I don't think it benefits his game that much, like so extensively to get Elena out. I kind of think that if anything, it might hurt his game because his relationship with Paul might be hurt because Paul will realize that he's not just a loyal dog. And so I think it's kind of weird that he was keen on targeting Elena, but I was all for it because it was exciting and it was something unexpected. I honestly thought that this was going to be such a dull week with just Jody being targeted the entire week. And, you know, that's just the end of it. And then we just move on. We get Jessica or Cody out and then that's it. But now there's actually some sort of hint of something else going on. And when he first said that first night, I was like, wait, what's going on here? Because I was so convinced he was just going to follow Paul the whole way through. I mean, it's weird to me because he still says, I trust Paul completely. I absolutely trust Paul, but I'm going to do something completely different than what Paul wants me to do. So, I mean, I'm interested in it.
It almost seemed as though he was willing to declare war on Paul or any of the people that were disagreeing with him because he wanted this so bad. Alex, do you think that this was a good move, or like, if anything, just what was he thinking in terms of this plan?
Well, I think it bothered him to, you know, come to the realization that even on like his HOH, he's not in complete control. I think he has this idea, right, that like because I'm HOH, I should get to call the shots because that's how it worked for Paul. And, you know, the thing about that is that Josh, I think, doesn't appreciate or understand is it worked for Paul that way, not just because Paul was HOH, right? But because Paul figure out what he wanted to do, and then went about getting the votes to make that thing actually happen. I think there's a piece here that Josh is just failing to understand, which is that if the numbers aren't there to do what you want doesn't matter. Like, this game is about a House vote at the end of the day. The HOH's power is done as soon as the veto is over. Like, the power shifts to the House. Like, that's a fundamental rule of this game. And I think he's just not appreciating that and not giving it the respect it deserves, because, like, yeah, I mean, I understand where he's coming from, but he just doesn't have the clout in the House needed to pull it off. And it's probably just going to end up coming back to bite him.
See, I don't really feel like that's the problem, though. I feel like his whole problem this week is that he has not put his foot down. He keeps telling Christmas, like, look, I'm the HOH. If I say that Elena's going to go, Elena's going to go. But he's never said that to Paul. He's never said that to anybody other than Christmas, who was in on the plan to begin with. So it's like, it's sort of a half-assed plan. Like, I'm listening to the three of you talk about this, and I'm like, I suppose it could have been a great plan, but we're all in spoilers now. I mean, we're up to speed as of, Monday night, 5 o'clock Big Brother time. And this plan is going nowhere. There is no plan to get Elena out at this point because Josh isn't putting his foot down. He's like, talk to Paul, like, look, Elena's shady. She's like this. I don't like her. But Paul he's always got the yeah, but. It's always the yeah, but we'll get her out next week. Yeah, but we see what's going on, so we'll deal with her next week. We just got to get Jessica out this week. Josh has never manned up and said, look, I kept you safe this week as HOH. This is what I want. Let's go do it. If he would have done that, I feel like we'd have a different week ahead of us. Instead, it looks like it's going to be Jessica going out on a very uneventful week after I thought there could have been some fireworks in the beginning.
Yeah, I think part of it has become just Josh had the idea, you know what, I'm not a fan of Elena. I kind of want Elena out right now. And then coming to the realization that he can't make that happen because Paul says no. And he's just like, well, Paul shouldn't be able to tell me no. I'm in control of my own game. I should decide if this person is going to leave or if they're going to stay. And that's, I think, where he got to the point where he was just like, you know what? I'm willing to declare war. I'm willing to do whatever. He needs to back my decision. I'm in charge here. It's the Josh show. It's not the Paul show. But I think he's learned or will learn that it is the Paul show right now. And yeah, there's really not much you can do about it. It's actually the Taran show, but none of them realize it.
Yeah, I think a lot of the thing is that a lot of passive players are like, okay, it's the HOH's decision. They're in power. So I'm going to go with whatever the HOH says, and that's what's going to happen that week. And I think that Josh assumes that because that's the way he plays with each week, doing whatever the HOH wants, that's what would happen for his week. But the smart players out there, aka Paul, are like, well, no, we're not going to do that. I'm not just going to follow whatever the HOH says. Like, that's not good for my game. Why would I want to do that? So I think that he's kind of confused as to like, wait, what? Why is no one just doing what I say? I'm the HOH. It's like, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, we also saw Christmas get very intricately involved with this plan. It seemed as though she was really one of the driving forces behind it in the first place, really encouraging Josh to make a move against Paul, to not listen to everything that Paul was saying. But she seemed to go back and forth all week long and seems to have settled ultimately on, no, we need to get Jess out, which I do think is largely on Jess herself, but also just Christmas's total erratic behavior here. I still just, we talked about it last week. We're just like, we can't get a good read on what Christmas is doing. And after a week of her making some like intricate game decisions, I still don't know what Christmas is doing. People are blaming the medication, but is she even on the medication anymore? I thought she said she was off of it. Like, I don't know what's happening with Christmas here. Brent, do you?
Yeah, I like her better on her medication. So take more. Take it from me, a recovering addict. Just take a little bit more, and you'll be a better person. Okay, I'm just kidding. But seriously, like, I can't stand her right now because I don't know where she's coming from. She said earlier today that she realizes that Paul has his hands in every single alliance in the house and is probably working behind the scenes, much to their chagrin. But she's like, well, as long as he's loyal to us, then I don't really care about that, which is what I said on the show last night. I pointed out to you, Taran, like, yeah, they're aware of it, but are they happy with the status quo? And I got my answer today. It appears that they're happy with the status quo because as long as Paul is really loyal to them, then they're okay with it. What they fail to realize in that is that they're giving Paul options. Paul has options. If Matt and Raven win HOH, that he's okay. If Jason and Alex, or basically anybody but Cody wins HOH, even Elena, Paul is going to be okay. But they're leaving themselves vulnerable. Like, they are locked in with Paul, but Paul is not locked in with them. The people that they named in their alliance that they want to go to, like, the final 6 is like, Jason, Alex, Josh, Christmas, Kevin, and Paul. Well, that leaves Matt, Raven, Elena, and Mark, on the outside. But Paul has relationships with all of those people. So if any one of them win, you're going to be in hot water, not him. You need to realize and cut him off. Josh had the right idea by going after Elena, hardening the lines a little bit and giving Paul nowhere to go. Now he doesn't really have that option. And I blame Christmas in part because I really do believe if she hadn't used that ring that Cody would have won that veto competition. And that's such a tragedy. It really is.
Yeah, it's like she was just kept dipping her toes in the water all week, but the water's just like too cold ultimately.
Right.
Like she just decided not to get in, right? She's just I'll just sit on the beach and watch you guys.
Yeah.
Which is more infuriating, I feel like.
I'm sure. Because like you're seeing glimpses of like where did this Christmas come from? Because all of a sudden this week she's talking in a way that she's never talked before, where she's saying things like Paul isn't good with everyone. We should be wary of that. We should try to eliminate his other options, which I didn't even realize she was aware of. But she is, and apparently doesn't care. She said, as long as we're in with Paul, it doesn't matter that he's in good with everyone else. Like, again, as Brent, you said, like, not realizing that, like, everybody in this big group has their own idea of what their final 5 looks like. And every single one of them includes Paul. But it's different. It's a different combination of people for every single group. And they're all just like, yeah, it's fine. They even pretty much recognize the fact that Paul is in with all the other groups. But they're like, it doesn't matter. He'll be with our group because we'll win. I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking here. But they're following Paul.
So let me ask this question then. So rather than us complain, because I know some people get tired when I'm just ranting the entire time. So let's ask a proactive question. What needs to happen in the Big Brother house for them to realize that Paul is not being honest with all of the people who thinks that Paul is in their final 5? Basically what needs to happen to upset the apple cart here and alter the current dynamics of the house with Paul at the epicenter of it? Taran Armstrong, please answer my question.
Well, I think there's 2 things that tend to disrupt somebody's control like this. One is that, and I could totally see Paul doing this, he wants something that nobody else wants, and he just can't let it go. If he wants something and nobody else is in on this plan, but he wants to push it and push it and push it, sort of like what Paulie did last season, then he could lose the trust of everyone. Everyone would be like, he doesn't have my best interests in mind. This is clearly against my interest. It's clearly for his, and this is just bad. The way he's got it set up is that there are 3 different groups with 3 competing interests. So everything he's doing is in the interest of at least one of those groups, which has been very successful for him. But I could still see him screwing up somehow and doing something that is just like having the blinders on and just being like, no, it has to be this way, and really putting people off. The second way is if one of his enemies wins an HOH, like Cody, and he gets backdoored or he gets put up on the block, and now he's got a campaign against his allies. They're definitely going to recognize, wait a minute, all of a sudden you're against me now. What's happening? Even if he doesn't get put up on the block, even if he somehow manages to survive and stay off the block, maybe he wins a temptation competition. If there's 2 people who are on the block and feel like Paul just abandoned me, he just sacrificed me, I'm going to blow up his spot because I feel betrayed by Paul. That's an easy way for people to have their spot blown up. It's kind of what happened to our good friend Jordan Parhar on season 3 of Big Brother Canada, where he just kind of let Sarah and Johnny just like sacrifice them, and they were like, whoa, we're sacrifices for this guy. It's a dangerous situation to be in when your enemy wins like that. So those are the ways I can see Paul sort of losing control here. Alex, are you on board here?
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely true. It makes perfect sense. And I think one other thing that, we should touch on, because you alluded to it earlier, is that, Jessica really could be doing more in this position probably. I mean, it does seem like at least, her and Elena should have, aligned interests at this point to a degree where they really should be working together, and they're friends. I mean, it seems like they like each other on a personal level, but if the 2 of them were to come together on any kind of a strategic level, they might actually be able to, come up with something. But I think the fact that they don't seem to recognize fully that using each other to, essentially, target Raven right now is a pretty optimal play for both of them.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see Cody, who, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but Cody has been approached by Kevin to form some sort of pseudo alliance where they protect Paul. I'd love to see Cody go to somebody like Matt or even like Josh or Christmas and say, hey, guess what? Paul's apparently in this group with Kevin and they're trying to make an alliance with me. Just say, like, why not? Why not throw something against the wall? You got nothing else to lose. But he nothing so far. I don't think he's never going to do that. I think it's still in the cards for him. But right now he's a little too preoccupied, obviously, with Jessica on the block. But I think this is something that could theoretically solidify somebody like Christmas and Josh back toward their plan to evict Elena and try to somehow muster up the votes for that. I don't know how well it would work, but it would be something, right, Melissa?
I think there are so many things that Jessica could be doing right now. I mean, Cody as well, but mostly Jessica. There are so many things she could be doing. Like, I feel like if she just went and had a conversation with Josh and with Christmas or whatever and just said, you know what, all of this is water under the bridge. I'd like to work with you. I see what's going on or whatever. Like, I think that she just talked with them, but she just kept saying, I see your plan. I know exactly what's going on. I have nothing to say to you. And that is the worst thing you could possibly do. I understand that they think that it's the house against them, but like, you've got to try. There are so many different things you could do. I mean, they see what's going on. Jessica is very aware of like Paul's controlling everyone. Paul's got different sides of the house working for him. There are so many things they could do to rally people together to get them to save Jessica and get out Raven. There are so many people who don't like Raven, and they would vote her out in a heartbeat, and you just got to get them all together.
Well, when we look at why this plan to evict Elena failed ultimately, or at least appears to have failed, obviously there's a lot of week left to be played. A lot of game left to be played this week. When we look at why it failed, how much are we going to attribute to Jess and Cody here in terms of their inability to essentially grease the wheels and let this happen? Brent, what do you think?
I mean, I would say at least 50%, probably more so since it's their butt on the line. I mean, they just have not been willing to get out of their own head. I think there's a little bit of their pride involved here where they've been fooled so many times that they don't want to be like Charlie Brown with the football. And I know I've used that analogy a couple times, but it is like that in Jessica's mind where she's like, it's been us against the house since the beginning. Of course, she fails to realize that, they had the house in the palm of their hand until Cody went off the reservation and tried to nominate Paul and then later nominate Christmas. Remember she had the conversation with him in like week 1 where she was like, if you would have just nominated Jason, none of this would have happened. Can you imagine what a different game it would be if Jason wasn't in the house right now? But I don't know. I feel like that it's their fault because they just aren't willing to get off their butts. I'll say this. I'm interested to see what happens with Cody because we've seen Jessica in the house without Cody. I liked more what I saw from her game. We've never seen Cody in the house without a girl. Ever since the feeds came on that first night, he's always had a girl. So I'm interested to see what kind of a game he could play. I don't know. Maybe it would be interesting.
He was walking around today in the backyard with Jason and Kevin, and I think that if he keeps developing that relationship, I think he could go really well for him. I mean, the one caveat is that they're like, well, as long as you protect Paul, but the second you nominate Paul, we're cutting you, which is like, okay, well, then you guys are not going to be in an alliance together because he's going to put Paul up. There's no way he's going to keep Paul safe.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I heard that conversation with Jason. And when Jason said to Kevin, well, as long as he doesn't nominate Paul and Alex. And he's like, oh, no. He's like, oh, okay, well, then I'm on board then. Who cares about Paul? Like, you should
know. Paul can handle himself. It is so frustrating that they just keep protecting him. I mean, like, to be fair, I don't want Paul out of the house yet because he makes it exciting. And I'd like to continue to see, people strong players going against each other. But I want people to realize what's going on. And I don't want Paul to have just a bunch of minions that he control and then like pick them off week by week, one by one until he gets to the end. Like, that's not fun for me. I want to see, some sort of good strategic battle. And I feel like if Jody leaves, then there's nobody left really because everyone just wants to take Paul to the end.
Yeah, we've talked about Melissa Unleashed, but Cody unleashed when Jess isn't in the house could be very interesting. He talked to Jessica about like, what should I do when you're gone? And she essentially was like, you know what? Just go crazy. Go full evil dick on them if you want. Don't personally attack them, but do whatever else you want. We know that he's been holding back ever since he got in Paul's face because of Jessica's reaction. So we could see Cody really step it up in terms of the entertainment that he's bringing to the show. I don't necessarily think that he's going to be much better strategically, but I do think that he's going to bring some heat, and he said that himself today.
The one problem that I have also with Jessica and Cody is that they are reading the house right, in that Paul is controlling everything, like they're his dogs, as they were saying earlier, but they're misreading the way the house is laid out right now, because somehow Jessica keeps saying something like, well, Alex's side of the house and Paul's side of the house, and I'm like, what sides of the house are you listening to? Like, I mean, are you guys with me when you listen to Jessica? Like, I don't know, what is her vision of what the house looks like right now? Because it's not the same as what I'm seeing.
Everyone seems to be very confused as to what the house is like, because really there's no sides of the house anymore. It's literally everybody in a giant group versus Cody and Jessica. Everybody else thinks they're all together. Like, I mean, there are like certain people on the outsides, Mark, Elena, whatever, but it's that people think, oh, well, your side of the house, his side of the house, that there's certain sides, but everyone thinks they're in just a massive clump of people, which is just, it's crazy to me.
Let me ask you this question really quickly, too. Elena, she's been such a disappointment to me, too. Like I said, that conversation she had yesterday with Jessica where she's like, well, I'd have to put Cody up on the block because everyone would be mad at me if I didn't. I mean, they
already don't like you. They already want you out. You are next in the chopping block. Don't just do whatever everyone else wants.
I know. I don't understand her either. I mean, basically, they've told you that you're expendable, woman. Like, don't you see that? Like, you are expendable to a vast amount of people. They kept you out of the plan initially. Now they're putting you on the block. Josh has problems with you. You should realize that these people don't like you. I mean, and I'm hoping now that jury is here, assuming it is, that they will play a little bit more ballsy now. I know Christmas and Josh were talking about that on the feeds last night and today. Like, hey, it's jury. Let's play balls out. But then it seems like they go back into their shell. So I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think ultimately the problem is, like, especially with, a player like Elena, is that she's just, she's probably cast for the wrong reasons, like she's here. You listen to her talk about like the upside of being on the block is at least I'm probably getting airtime, and how this really is like for her just an opportunity for visibility. I mean, and when you're thinking about the game in those terms, like the worst is to go out early. Like, your biggest fear is just to go out early. Like, you just want as much exposure as possible. And that doesn't necessarily mean winning, but it does mean like lasting. So if you're playing to survive, then you're not playing to win. And you're just, you're going to play scared, and you're going to, fundamentally make moves that are kind of hamstringing your ability long term.
Well, I think, Brent, I think you mentioned something that I think is important, which is that people really, they can't seem to see the lines very clearly in where this group is divided up. Like, people aren't seeing Paul's relationship to Alex and that side of things. They see his relationship to Matt and Raven, and they suspect that he's closer with Elena, but they don't really see it with Mark as much as they should. They obviously don't see his relationship. They see that he's close with Kevin, but they have no idea how close. And again, like the Alex and Paul thing is really like the main driver between, like, that's what allows Paul to control the game, and nobody is able to see it. When we're talking about like how Paul is able to maintain this control, I think that's an important part, right, Alex?
Yeah, and I mean, I think it is rare that, usually, like, there's all kinds of conversations that are going to be happening in the Big Brother house all season long. But, this stage of the game and earlier, there's so many people and so many people bouncing into rooms at all different times that you wouldn't think secret relationships can be really easily maintained. Like, you would think some people would be more perceptive. But, I mean, to his credit and, to Alex's credit to some degree, they've done a good job of really keeping it under the radar. I mean, it's easier for Paul to keep it under the radar in the sense that Alex, like, really has just kind of given him everything he wants in the sense of like agreeing to be a pawn or just like agreeing to like let him use her name in a plan, in a scheme last week. So, I mean, from that standpoint, it really does make things easier to maintain something when you can like, you know, do the Dan thing and just like throw them on the block and then have them still be loyal. But yeah, I mean, that's really key. I mean, secret relationships, nobody else has them. Everybody else's relationships are wide out in the open. So if Paul is able to maintain any of those are going to be critical as we get into late stages of the game.
The frustrating thing to me is that the people that are most, quote, you know, woke in the house right now in that Christmas and Josh are the people that are probably the most safe with Paul. Like Matt was having a conversation with Paul earlier today where he was like, you know, Christmas and Josh, man, like, you know, we take those two suckers to the end. Like one of us is guaranteed $500,000. And I'm like, fool, don't you see that if you're saying that to Paul already recognizes that, and that means that Paul isn't going to keep your ass around for very long. So it just like, again, you're saying things that you shouldn't in the Big Brother house. And again, it's frustrating because Christmas and Josh to me are the people who are the most excitable and the most like the people who are going to stick it to the man, aka Paul, if they like, you know, get their dander up. I almost said dandruff.
Dandruff?
I know, right? My dad used to say that. That's why I
Get
screwed
that
that up.
going.
I know, right? But they, I don't even know that if it's in their game interest right now to get rid of Paul because he really, really wants to keep them in the game. Ugh.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to look at this concept of just like how Paul has managed to maintain control. I think obviously a lot of it has to do with him being a vet, why people look up to him in the way that they do. Liana, who unfortunately wasn't able to join me on an update this weekend, did message me on Twitter saying that she feels like she has a theory where she says like, I think that one of the reasons at least they suck up to Paul so much is that right from the very start, their first task was suck up to Paul to get a friendship bracelet. How much do we think that this had to do with the current like situation in terms of like how they view Paul in the house, Melissa?
Well, I mean, Alex keeps referencing the friendship bracelet and how he can't go against his friendship bracelets, which like I'm going to repeat, Alex did not get a friendship bracelet, so she's not involved in that, but whatever. She just keeps saying that. People keep going, yeah, friendship. He can't go against his friendship brand. And they even were saying there's no way production would turn on Paul. There's no way they would. And it was like, oh yeah, we'll just wait and see. But, you know, I really do think that has something to do with it. I think that it set up this scenario where Paul is considered all-knowing and all-wise, and everyone should, you know, suck up to him until so that he can give them friendship, and you know that would be his whole thing. It's like he's a god to them, which is just insane.
I wish they could see the logo on the new T-shirt that Paul's team put out. I don't know if you've seen this, but it's you know, Pablo, the rubber duck, the symbol of friendship, having the life squeezed out of it by a giant snake. So yeah, brand that.
Was that meant to represent Nicole beating him?
No, I think it's, you know, Paul is the snake now, and I think that's very much like coming out in the wake of the Dominique era of this game.
Can I just say really quickly that I have not watched Nicole when Julie turned over that vote from Devon. I have not watched Nicole beat Paul since it happened that night. And for the first time this week, I went back and watched it, and I had a little popcorn. It was very fun.
There have been, I don't know if we've talked about this. There's been have been some rumors about Victor and Nicole maybe getting together. You know, he flirted with her a lot in the house. So I have no idea how valid it is.
Instagram official.
But interesting stuff. That would make her third Big Brother romance. So yeah,
she gets around.
Well, who wouldn't want to be with Nicole?
Taran has to turn that comment around.
Yeah.
He's like, she gets around. Yeah, well, she's great, right?
Look, I think Nicole is great. I know not that's not like the most popular opinion in the world, but I think she's great. So. Anyway, do we think that this is, we talked about this a little bit, but do we think this is the start of the beginning of the end for Paul's control in the game? Now that people are starting to wake up a little bit, obviously it fails though. Does that actually strengthen his position in the game? Has it gotten weaker, or do we think that it's essentially just like a false start, everything's the same? Brent, what do you think?
I kind of feel like it's a false start. Everything's the same. I really do. And I'm sad to say that. But right now, I mean, Paul has everything so lined up. It's like, well, you know, next week, Cody's going to go home. Cody wins the temptation. Then Elena or Mark's going to go home. If one of them wins the veto, the other one goes home. Like, I mean, you know, and we'll just put Josh up as a pawn or Raven up as a pawn. Like, Raven's gone up as a pawn now. She can go up again. Although Christmas is saying Raven went up as a pawn, so she doesn't have to go up again as a pawn in the future. So maybe that will lead to some drama. It's just I'm grasping at straws here, trying to figure out, you know, what can change the dynamics of the game. We need a power shift in the house. You know, I was really surprised. I have to say really quickly, my criticism of the production has not, you know, gone unnoticed this season, but I was really, really, really surprised that for one of the most important HOHs of the season, they had a luck competition. Like, literally just roll the ball down and see where it lands. Congratulations, you're the new head of household. Like, I mean, really? That's what you're giving me here. Like, you could have had something epic, and instead you shit on it, so you deserve what you're getting right now.
I mean, I will say that I'm going to stay optimistic for this week because I think there are so many things that could happen before Thursday night, and I think that it's gone back and forth so many times already that I'm getting very sick of like watching the feeds at this point this week, because I just feel like every 5 minutes something different's going to happen, so I can't get my hopes up about anything, or I can't get invested in one scenario because I just know it's going to turn around in a second. But Christmas was saying, to Josh, she was saying, don't do anything yet. Wait until right before, you know, the day before, the night before, the day of, whatever, and then we can try and figure something out. I mean, who knows if she's still thinking that, but it's possible that she's just saving everything right now, keeping everything calm, and then the night before or the day of, things are going to flip around and things are going to change. I really do think that it's going to come down to like right before the vote that we're going to figure it out and that they're going to change their minds. So I'm holding out hope for this week.
I think it's pretty set at this point. If you're asking me,
Hush up, Taran. No one's here for you.
It seems pretty locked at this point. They've made multiple attempts and it seems to have failed. And I think I tend to agree with where Brent is in terms of just like, I feel like things are just going to go back to how they were. You know, we saw Josh and Christmas express feelings of like, oh, we don't want to let Paul control our game, but that's only because they were disagreeing with what Paul was saying in that moment. If we go to next week and all of a sudden it's their interests are aligned again, they're going to be like, oh yeah, Paul, you're great, we love you. You know, if this is how they act when their interests don't align, then it's hard to see them continuing along this line of thought when their interests probably will align once again. Alex, what do you think?
Yep, I think it's hard to envision the scenario short of, like you talked about. I think really you're going to need someone who's, you know, adamantly coming after Paul, or someone close to Paul with their HOH, something that really like kind of adjusts things in a major way. Short of that, like he just has too much control over too many of the votes. It's just hard to see a situation where it gets swayed unless you can find some way to, you know, create some kind of like three-way vote split or something, which we've never seen on Big Brother.
Well, can I just clarify? I'm not saying I think that like everyone's going to turn on Paul this week. I don't think that's the case. I think he's going to be in charge again next week, but I think that it's possible that people could see, well, Raven's expendable. She's not part of our core alliance. And then they'll maybe kick Raven out, and the votes will, you know, go that way. Or maybe people will say, well, Elena's not part of our core alliance. Like, she's not really part of the deal, so it's fine. Let's just kick her out. Like, I don't think they're ever going to turn on Paul, but I think that it's possible that Paul might not get his way this week in getting Jessica out.
I have a question really quickly. So do we think that Elena is the better option for them if they want to try to save Jessica, or like is getting Raven? Like, there's no love lost between Josh and Christmas and Raven. I feel like they really can't stand her at this point. They've listened to all her stories. They're sort of getting to where we are as far as listening to Raven and all of her stories, and her accent comes and goes, and she's got 5,000 diseases, and it's always about her. So, like, at least by not targeting Elena, you can get Mark's vote and you have Cody's vote, and you have Christmas's vote. You only need one more with Josh's tie-breaking HOH abilities. So
Kevin likes to play fast and loose,
and he doesn't like Raven either.
Yeah.
Raven too, and Matt and Raven are not in the core group. Like, they are not part of the final six that everybody envisions. Like, Paul was just saying on the feeds yesterday that he wants to make sure that he gets Matt and Raven on the radars of these people so that they end up next on the chopping block. So I don't know.
I was just gonna say, I don't necessarily think this is shady business, but there has been talk today of, Josh and others coming out of the diary room and saying, like, they're asking me if, like, Raven really matters for my game and stuff like that. Like, there's been some, some speculation. And then when feeds cut, it makes it look all the shadier. But there's some speculation about, is the diary room trying to push people towards targeting Raven because she's not bringing much to the table in terms of
she's bringing zero to the table. Girl, bye.
And I think that's probably not. They probably do that for everybody. They ask everyone a million questions throughout the week. They've probably already this week asked, like, does Elena make sense for your game? Does Jessica make sense for your game? And now they're just like, Raven just went up today, so they're adding that question to the. Like, I don't necessarily think it's shady, but I do find it interesting that, like, even Big Brother Reddit, which is usually, like, pretty into the stability and fairness of the game, everyone's like, if this is what's happening, I'm okay with it.
Yeah. In terms of, like, would it be a better move to take out Raven for Josh or Christmas? My problem with that is that they're not really doing Jess and Cody any favors in that way. Like, they're still. Jess and Cody are still mad at Josh and Christmas, especially after Christmas used the ring of replacement on them. It also allows Elena to stay in with Mark and Jess and Cody. That's a really strong foursome to leave intact in this game, especially if they don't like you. Those are probably, at least, all of them are good at competitions. Those are probably four of the best competitors in the house. If they are a block together, and even if they do take out Paul before you, you have to imagine that you're pretty close on that chopping block. Cody has never liked Christmas that much. Jess is very annoyed at Christmas right now, and obviously they've had a history of problems with Josh. And it's hard to imagine them not taking the opportunity to take out Elena instead of Raven if they do want to make a move. So that if they do want to make some kind of deal with Jess and Cody, they're coming from a little bit more of a position of strength. Because if Jess and Cody have a group of four together, they're like, who cares about Josh and Christmas? We don't want to deal with you guys. They don't want to deal anyway. They don't even want to deal with Kevin right now. They're so not really amenable to any deals. So I do think the better move here is Elena, even though Raven, I know, is everyone's cheering and hoping for that. But it's really hard to see that happening, and it's hard to see that that being the better move for them.
What's really frustrating is I could see Jess convincing Cody not to vote out Elena, even if the votes are, like, going that way. I could see her being like, we can't turn against Elena. I love Elena as a person. Like, you should just vote out Raven instead. And then the votes go and Jess leaves. Like, I could absolutely see that happening. It's just so dumb. It's like, do whatever you can to stay in the game. Elena just told you she's going to put Cody on the block. Like, oh, man, I'm going to have to put him on the block. Like, she's not on your side. She might be a good friend of yours, but she's definitely not on your side.
Yes. All right. So we're seeing this fail, this Josh and Christmas plan, and Paul has been informed, hey, you know what? Christmas, she's been talking bad about you. She's been saying some things. Now that this plan has failed, do we think that this is going to have some ramifications on Christmas and Josh moving forward in this game? We talked about how Paul was pretty up for the idea of dragging Christmas and Josh along pretty far, but if he feels like she started to turn on him, do we think that he might put them up on the hit list there? Brent, what do you think?
Not right now. I don't feel like, because they're such good goats and they generally do whatever he says and they worship at his altar. So I don't really feel like that they're in any danger, because there's so many other juicy targets that are on the board right now. Add to the fact that, again, as I have mentioned many times, Paul does not fear Christmas. What's she gonna do? Like, it takes a really specific competition for her to try to win, and even then she has to win it. Like, she can't even play in, like, most of the vetoes that they have. Like, so why in the world would you ever get rid of Christmas unless there's just no way you can work with her, and the relationship isn't at that point right now? Paul was able to smooth it over with Christmas. Like, look, the reason I've been hanging out with Elena so much is because, like, I can't remember exactly what his reason was, but basically
Was that a swear?
He was trying to placate her. No, it wasn't a swear. I was searching for a word. He was trying to placate her. Like, look, we know what Elena's up to. We know what kind of person that she is. We'll get her next week. Like, just chill. We got to get Jessica this week. We'll get Elena next week. Like, she's not fooling anybody, even though what he's not saying is that Paul knows correctly, as he said to us in the feeds, if Elena wins HOH, she's not going after Paul anyway. So he doesn't have anything to fear because she is too much of a wuss. She's not brave enough to go after Paul. And frankly, I don't even think if Cody wins HOH, he can get Paul out of the game. And here's why. Because I think his vendetta against Matt and Raven is so hard that he will put Matt and Raven up as pawns and then try to backdoor Paul if it's even possible with the temptation competition in play. But if Paul is up against Matt or Raven on the block, they're going to send Matt or Raven home. There's no way they're going to vote Paul out. The person he needs to put up next to Paul is Alex, and I don't think Cody would ever do that. So, whatever. It ain't happening. Paul's here to stay, people. Might as well get used to it.
Well, this also brings up a question that I have actually from John on Twitter, who asks, if Cody wins safety next week, should Paul target Christmas? Everyone is telling him she's undermining him, and the BR rules / Derek say yes. Alex, what do you think?
I think the difference here is that the BR / Derek rules say nothing about someone who can't compete in 85% of competitions. And I think that's a big element that we're forgetting here.
Yep.
If Christmas is trying to undermine him, yes, that should probably bump her down on his list, or at least be something he's mindful of moving forward. But the fact that everyone's telling him about it means that she doesn't have the clout to actually pull off any of the moves she might like to do. And then at the end of the day, she has to sit out on so many of these things that it just seems like she's just kind of a perfect person to just leave in the game. I mean, she really, really doesn't represent a legitimate threat to him at this point. If she did, something would have happened this week.
Yeah, I mean, like, let's be real about this. Like, there's no way she's going to be able to compete in any sort of Final 5 veto, Final 4 veto, or any part of the Final 3 HOH. Like, there's just no, I've looked back. I literally did this. I looked back at all the variations of competitions that they have had, and there is not one that she could have done in there, because it just involves some sort of physical competition where you have to move around and do stuff. You have to kick something for the days or do this. The only thing I've been found that she could even possibly win is like a days competition, like Ian won in 14 with, roll the ball down the hill and look wherever it lands. That's how many penalty points you get, which I actually watched earlier today because I have nothing better to do. So, I was, maybe, look, he doesn't fear her. That's the thing, and which is exactly why I've said for the longest time she should not have been allowed to continue in the game, because she's just going to be there as a piece of the puzzle that you cannot remove from the Jenga board, because why would you?
Okay.
Somebody's phone is ringing. No. I heard that. It was you! Ah!
Wasn't me.
Oh, wasn't you? Really? You looked all guilty. Sorry. Okay. I heard it.
Like I'd be that unprofessional.
Oh, my God.
You. All right. So let's talk about Kevin's plan here to approach Cody and try to make a deal. I referenced it earlier in the show. It's basically, the plan is, I'm going to go to Cody. I'm going to offer him top 8, top 7, maybe even top 6. It'll be great. Just don't target me, Jason, Alex, or Paul. And we're all good. We'll shake on it. And man, boom, done. He goes to Paul. Dude, it's done. He's not going to nominate you. He's not going to backdoor you. Paul's like, what are you talking about? Of course he is. And he's like, want to make a side bet? He's not going to do it. He gave me his word. He shook on it. Man, I love Kevin. I love what he's been doing during the game. This feels kind of misguided, right, Melissa?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like, first of all, like, I like the idea of doing like a side alliance with Cody, so that way, he's safe if Cody wins HOH, and it kind of like protects him all around, but not to include Paul in it, and then not to tell Paul about it afterwards. I just feel like the whole including Paul in it just brings up suspicions against Kevin that, like, wait a second, he's making side deals, he's working with Cody. Okay, maybe he's doing more than just listening to what I say. So it's definitely not a good idea. I loved the idea of him trying to work with Cody, trying to work with Jessica, setting himself up, but like he kind of just blew it. Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think this is one of those moments where just like Kevin's lack of knowledge about the game is kind of hurting him. He sort of feels like, I've thought of this great, brilliant strategy. I'm gonna go to this guy who's on the outs. He's got no one else. It'll be great. I can do whatever I want with him. Nobody could have thought of this but me. I'm brilliant for thinking about this, but it's not really working. As Melissa points out, it's Paul is kind of annoyed about this. Paul is starting to be like, is Kevin playing too hard? I'm not liking this. Jason isn't super happy about it either. Jason is one of his closest allies. Even Cody is just like, maybe I should put Kevin next to Paul if I win HOH. Like, this is just failing on every single level. Alex, what do you think? What do you think about Kevin here?
Yeah, it's a shame because sometimes as people start to think they understand the game, they demonstrate all the more that they really don't. It's like he was better off doing nothing. And sometimes that's true with certain people because they're just natural charisma and charm and likability can carry them far. The best move he'd make all week is just tell more stories about the guys from the wharf coming down with like the trucks full of seafood, like so big that like shrimps are bouncing off it and stuff. Like that's his best play.
Brent, is there something?
I'm a seafood
Is there something Kevin can be doing better?
I mean, I agree with Alex. I feel like that Kevin has to know who he is and how he's perceived in the Big Brother house right now, and he's playing a little bit against type. Like if he starts wheeling and dealing outside the confines of anything he's previously discussed with Paul, I don't feel like that's going to leave him in a very good place. And it didn't go unnoticed by many, many people in the house that he and Cody and was it Jason, I think, we're walking with Cody today, making deals. And they were out there for a long time to a point where Raven was like, Matt, you should really go walk with them next time. Like, because we don't want anything funky to happen there. So
they saw him shaking hands. Like that's like the worst thing you can be caught doing something with someone. I mean, I guess.
And he can't be like Ramsey's told me to anymore.
I know, right?
That card is gone.
I feel like his instincts are at least, like you mentioned, Taran. I feel like they're like at least like Big Brother 101 level, where he's like, okay, I should probably do something in case this guy wins HOH. What he doesn't realize is that Cody was never going to come after him in the first place, and I don't even know necessarily that Cody knows the right move to get Paul out of the house, which Kevin seems really, really concerned about. And he also seems concerned about Alex and Jason. And I don't feel like Cody would put any of those people up on the block. Like Cody right now is pissed off at Matt and Raven and Paul and I don't know, maybe Christmas a little bit. I don't know. Like, yeah, for the whole temptation thing. So I just don't feel like this was needed. And again, it was he would have been better off doing nothing, as Alex correctly notes.
Yes. All right. So let's talk about Raven. She's on the block.
No. Let me go get some medicines.
Well, I'm sure you want to talk about this most recent claim that she's brought up where she was just like, you know what I find really funny? How I turned Cody down in the first week of the game when he tried to kiss me and then said the reason why it wouldn't work out anyway is because you can't have kids. Some pretty heavy claims that came out of nowhere. I think the general consensus is that this is probably a lie, but obviously we don't know for sure. The feeds weren't on, but we haven't heard Cody say anything about this, and she hasn't brought it up until just now. Brent, how do you feel about it all?
I mean, I'm just going to look. I mean, obviously, I can't prove anything because the feeds weren't on, but she never actually answered the question, right? When Matt said, did he actually say that? Did she? I can't remember, but I thought she kind of like scooted around that. Like it was never actually answered affirmatively. Yeah, he really did say that. I thought it was just something that she was saying just to say, like she says about everything. Like everything with Raven is her being the victim. Something's wrong with her. She's so put upon. People don't like her. This is what's going on. She's so excited to be on the block because she wants to talk about gastroparesis month. It's gastroparesis awareness month in case y'all haven't heard about that. Like, no one cares about you, woman, okay? We don't care about you and your problems. We want to see you play Big Brother. I just can't with Raven. I just can't. I try because I'm thinking, okay, like they cast this person and she seems like a generally nice person, and I liked her in the beginning. I thought she was like, she's got. Remember in the beginning, I was like, oh, she seems so fun. Like the way she moves around the house is so balletic, and you can tell she's a dancer because she's so quirky, and the way she moves around the house, and I sort of enjoy that. But then listening to her as much as I have, and this is day what, Taran? How long have we been watching the feeds right now?
48.
I mean, it's just constant with Raven. As far as there is a person, I asked this, I said, is somebody keeping track of all the things that Raven has said are wrong with her? And there is the Raven Exposed party. You can go find it on Twitter. But all the things that Raven may or may not have wrong with her, you can find. And it is a litany of things that she has. So I can't possibly believe that even half of them are true. Otherwise, she'd probably be dead by now, and half of it just seems like attention-making noises, because anytime she doesn't get enough attention, it seems like she brings up one of these stories where she's so put upon by members of the house or people in the world or people in her family, or somebody said something here. Like, it's, again, whatever with Raven. And there is no scenario where I believe that Cody actually would have picked Raven over Jessica. I am a gay man who is a gold star gay. I have never been with a woman in my entire life, and even I can tell that Jessica is the catch among those two. So, girl, bye.
I feel like we could go back 5 years and apply all this analysis to Danielle Murphy. That's what
I was about to say. Nikki in the chat points out the Danielle Murphy comparison. Although I like how Brent started out that rant with like, oh, whatever, I don't care, it's some Raven, and then spent like 5 minutes talking about it, and then ended it with like, but whatever, it's whatever. But yeah, the Danielle Murphy comparison, I think it's something that I've thought of as well. I think it's probably going to start to come up more and more. People just kept a running tally of all the crazy things that she said in the house. Melissa, do you feel like Raven is on track to be the next Danielle Murphy?
Oh, I don't even know. I feel like people are just so over her, and I'm very glad that people in the house are over her. I was getting so frustrated in the beginning when people were like, you know what, Raven deserves it. I just want Raven to win. Like, even Cody was saying it, who, like, I would never have expected Cody to say something like that. But he kept saying, if I want Raven to win, I want to take her to the end. And then when she's there, I just want her to win. It's like, I was so sick of that. And I'm so glad that the house guests are finally seeming to see through all of her lies and how annoying she is. And I think that, especially because I was a little taken aback that nobody was like weirded out like we were when she like went on that whole yelling rampage and how she was like doing the woof woof, all that stuff. And woof, I was kind of like, wow, everyone thinks.
What kind of woof is that?
A soft southern woof.
Woof.
I was like so surprised that nobody thought that it was a big deal and that they were just like, yeah, that's Raven. She's really calling them out. And now people behind the scenes are like, what was that? Right. She's crazy. Even Paul was saying it when he was talking to the cameras. So I was so glad that people are finally seeing through her Southern Belle facade.
Mother effing woof.
I do declare.
Yeah. All right. So finally, I think we need to talk about something else that has surfaced here. There's been a clip going around where Cody is talking with Jason. Jess and Matt are also there, and they're talking about Audrey from season 17. And obviously, we saw Cody make some inappropriate statements about transgender people prior to this. It seems like he goes a bit further this time, saying some very unfortunate things. I don't know if I want to repeat them. You can go and find them if you want. But this has caused a lot of controversy here, and it's an unfortunate situation. Brent, did you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, look, I just choose to believe in the best in people, and I don't believe that, generally speaking, most people are evil. They're just ignorant. Okay, they really are. I talked about this a little bit with Lita on a previous podcast, but let me take a different tact and tell you guys two things. Okay, I am a part of the LGBT community, and it's sort of like an umbrella that so we sort of put all the others underneath. All right. And that's just how at least I've always seen it. Like, well, we're part of the other people who are not like heteronormative cis people, okay? But even I, up until like a year and a half ago, was totally ignorant of the challenges that transgender people face, what questions are appropriate to ask a transgender person, what it's like being friends with a transgender person, and what you can get away with saying and what you can get away with not saying, and the appropriate language to use that is considered to be non-offensive in front of them. Because I just thought, you know what, I'm a gay man. Like, of course I know like transgender people. Like I've seen them my whole life, but I really didn't. So considering how ignorant up until a year and a half ago I was, and I'm a gay man, I feel like it's really, really hard for me to indict people like this, who in my eyes, they're just stupid. They're like my parents, who are good people, who have good hearts, but they've never been outside of their own universe. They've never been outside, Hebron, Kentucky, or, Springfield, Illinois. They've just never gone outside to meet people who were not like themselves. And once they do meet those people, they're generally very cool with it. They're like, oh yeah, you're a person just like me. But like even their own son, like my parents didn't even accept the fact that they had a gay son for a long time because they'd never met a gay person before. And then they did, and they're like, oh wow, our son's gay, and we get to know him, and eventually they find out, you know what, he's just like everybody else. He's just as boring. He has the same faults and the same, weaknesses and strengths. And I feel like this is just another chink in that, or another link on the chain, where it's like another group of people that we don't know a lot about, that many of us have never interacted with one time in our lives, and we just don't know how to talk about them. I think it is unfortunate, the language that they use. I certainly don't condone it, but I understand it because they're just too ignorant to know any better. And I agree with what Audrey said on Twitter. If you haven't gone to her Twitter, it's at Audrey M, ODDREYM. She put out a really great statement that I thought was wonderful about, let's not flame these people. The way to deal with this sort of situation is to educate people, because they just don't know any better. And I feel like it's incumbent upon us, who are learned people, who have interacted with trans people in our lives, to show them the path. And if they don't want to follow that path, then that's on them, and then we can indict them for it. But I feel like right now is more of a learning time. But that's my 2 cents, and I don't speak for everybody.
Yeah, I really appreciated Audrey's comments on this. I know that when I listened to it, my blood started to boil. It's frustrating to hear. But I actually, like, coincidentally.
Yeah, dogs are pissed off about it too.
That. Yes, they're very angry. Coincidentally, I spoke to Audrey today for episode 4 of the Taran Show, and we actually had a chance to sit down and talk about this exact incident. And she went into some detail about how she feels about what happened. Obviously, it's not great to hear these comments, but she also sort of feels like, don't fight fire with fire. Just because it frustrates you doesn't mean you have to act out in frustration. I thought that was a really measured and gracious response from Audrey. And I had a really awesome conversation with her. So if anyone's interested, of course, this episode of The Taran Show will be released tomorrow. You can hear Audrey talk all about this and many more things. Really great stuff.
I love the timing on this.
I know. The timing was crazy.
About that.
For unfortunate reasons, but very fortuitous timing. So yes, that's unless Melissa or Alex.
Yeah, Melissa, what is it? Melissa, you heard this on the feeds. Like, well, I mean, are you more in my camp about it, or do you like? I mean, I know we talked about it a little bit before the show, but like, I wanted to know your opinion on it. Do you feel like because some people in the chat feel like I'm being too easy on them, but I'm like, because the chat's saying, this has been constant. I don't think it's really been constant. It's been a few times from Cody and Jason. But they're in a house. They haven't had a chance to interact with anybody else. So, of course, they're going to keep making the same mistakes.
Yeah, I definitely don't like it at all. I mean, I don't think anybody does like the comments that they were making. But I will say that I do know people in my own life who are great people and have great hearts. But they don't understand the whole trans thing. They don't get it. And the comments that Jason was making, for example, like could have come directly out of their mouths, and they're not saying it to be mean. They're saying it because I can't speak for Jason or Cody, but I'm saying the people in my life, they're not saying it to be mean. They're saying it because they don't understand. And so they just, they ask these questions or they say it in a joking way because they just don't get it. And then they just have to be explained. You have to explain it to them.
Right.
And
I remember when, before we started, you said that comment could have come out of your dad's mouth. And I was like, because I feel that way too. It could have come out of my parents' mouth. And, my parents have had a gay son for the past 20 years. It's not like they live under, a rock somewhere. But again, they just don't know any better. Yeah.
My he's a great guy. He's got a great heart, and he has a lot of, friends in the gay community and stuff like that. But he doesn't understand it. It's not something that he deals with in his everyday life. So, when we watch Transparent together, my dad and I, he asks me questions and he'll make a joke here or there, but I'll be like, Dad, no, that's not the way that you talk about this. And then he'll understand and he gets it. But these jokes, people who just don't understand it can make these jokes because they don't get it. And you just have to inform these people and not just sit there and try and get them fired from their jobs or try and, attack them on Twitter or anything. It's just about trying to inform them and make people understand.
Yes. All right.
Yeah,
so if you want to.
Well, I agree with all that, but one thing I would add, just because I have seen, it sparked a conversation, as it should. You know what I mean? These are hot button issues, not just in the Big Brother house, but in society right now. These are the kinds of things that only get better, through information and education, talking about these kinds of stuff with people who get them and aren't just going to, bite your head off for not understanding. But I think it is fair that, I've seen this a few times with in some cases, obviously, with Jason, it just seems like pure ignorance. He's just trying to fit in, and he's also not really understanding anything there. I think one of the things that's particularly frustrating with Cody is just that it's not just what he's saying, but kind of how he's saying it. Some of his mannerisms seem to demonstrate that he's not interested in being educated on this subject, that right. This isn't something that he wants to know anything more about. So, I just feel like that's something we should point out. And, I can't guess at people's motives, and I don't know what's going on in their heads. But, like you said, Brent, moving forward, if that, is something where, people are, if he's still kind of expressing these views in a very harsh way, months down the road, I think then that's something we really address. But yeah, it's just, it's something I'm definitely not qualified to talk about. That's really the core of the issue.
Yeah. Jack in the chat says, and I do think this is important to point out because I think a lot of people share this opinion that Jason, people generally feel like Jason is acting out of ignorance, whereas they kind of feel like Cody is more of somebody that just doesn't care as much. And that does kind of come through in the clip if you watch it. But obviously, I don't want to impose my own interpretation on how these people feel. But again, I think, we're here to talk about Big Brother. If you want to listen to more discussion on this, you can, of course, check out the Taran Show tomorrow when I talk to Audrey. All right, so let's get into the Stockwatch, back into some game analysis here. I think we need to start, of course, with Paul in terms of where was he last week? Where is he now? Is he in a better spot even? Or has he gone down because Christmas and Josh have sort of caught on to him? What do we think here, Melissa?
I think Paul's in the same place I think that in the beginning of this week, I could have thought that he might have been in a worse off position because I thought that maybe Josh was going to, take a strong stance on this and be like, no, this is my HOH. We're doing what I want to do. We're not listening to you this week. And I thought Christmas was going to, fuel that fire, but it all kind of died down and Paul ended up getting his way anyway. So I just feel like he's about the same.
Brent, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd concur. I was trying to decide whether or not I was going to hold him or sell him, but I think that I'm going to have to hold because I can see multiple paths where he actually could get to the end. Because, again, nobody's really targeting him. And the few people that are targeting him, I don't think know enough about the house dynamics in order to get him out. So I don't see any way that he's going to be going anywhere anytime soon. And I think there is a viable path for him to get to the end, much to my chagrin. So I'm gonna hold him.
You agree, Alex?
I'm going to actually depress myself even further and say that his stock is up from last Monday. I'm thinking about it, and, there was a halting hex still to be played. There was a lot of things that could have resulted in, I mean, depending on how he reacts, depending on how other people interpret things, depending on how that HOH goes, there's a lot of ways that this could have played out very badly for him. So I think, yes, he is another step further in this, the positions are relatively the same, but he dodged a lot of mines over this past week. And I think there's going to be less and less bullets fired at him, as there's less opportunities for stuff like a halting hex to be dropped without his knowledge, because he has knowledge of everything that's not that kind of a game mechanic right now. So that is good for him.
Yeah, I agree, Alex. Thinking back to last week, we had just come off of that big fight. It really did seem like Paul was he had really pushed it too far this time, and there were a lot of things that could go wrong. But it does seem like he's got things back under control. So I think I'd buy a bit here. I think Paul's stock is back on the rise.
I don't like saying it.
Yeah, but it is the way it is. So there we have with Paul. Let's talk about Jess. Obviously, seemingly on her way out the door. We've got to say it's on the way down even further, right? I mean, I don't think we were super high on it before, but is there any hope for Jess to be on the rise again, Brent?
I mean, this is like sell. Like, there's no, like, I watch Kramer on CNBC sometime where he's like, sell. Like, I mean, like, this is what it is. There's no way that this woman is coming back. Like, I mean, in the things that she needs to be doing, she's not willing to do. She is more interested in spending her last few remaining days with Cody. Like, if she actually knew how much we were all rooting for her and, like, we see a path for her, I feel like she would try to change her fate, but right now she just feels so depressed about it. She doesn't see a way out of the end of the tunnel, and when you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, I feel like it's easier just to accept your fate. So there's no way I'm buying, and I'm selling Jessica.
Yeah, that pretty much says it, I think. Do either of you disagree?
No. I mean, yeah, she's had to fight a lot through not that many weeks of Big Brother, and sometimes you just over it. I mean, we've seen this before from people.
Yeah,
I'm just very annoyed because there's always something more you could be doing, and not only is she not doing that something more, she's not doing anything, and it really is disappointing to me because I really saw her as a player who was in it to win it and who would do whatever it takes, and I'm not seeing that from her this week.
They're just wallowing in their own self-pity. Like, this is an update from Shea Jenkins on Twitter. She said, Cody and Jessica need to get their asses to the table to celebrate Kevin's birthday. I mean, don't eat that food, but go and enjoy Kevin. Like, I mean, they won't even do that. That was 10 minutes ago, by the way. So if they've gone
that's the simplest thing to do is stand at a table. Like, I don't understand.
Kevin's a nice guy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like they're celebrating Paul's birthday or something. They're celebrating Kevin's birthday. The guy who just said, I'll protect Cody. Like, I want to help. It's so stupid and so excited.
I assume we're saying not to eat the food because Raven cooked dinner. Right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I know. I love it.
It's raw. The meat is raw.
It took me a second to read that. Like, I didn't understand that at first, and I'm like, oh yeah, don't eat that food. She's like, don't eat that food, but go and celebrate.
I think it's so funny when the cameramen, like, they just film overhead shots of Raven cooking, and it's like the most disgusting things you'll see. And they focus on it so much, like when she's cooking eggs or something, and it just looks horrible. It's like, I don't know how you can mess that stuff up.
Well, maybe
salmonella au gratin.
Maybe it's kind of like a Carnival situation where, like, in order for her to stay healthy, she needs to just sap the life out of all the food and just make it poisonous. Who knows? But yes, we're sell on Jessica here. But what about Cody? Cody is going to stay in this game for another week. And now that Kevin is trying to make deals with him, there's some kind of light, right? There's some hope for Cody that he might stick around. And he has at least one more temptation competition that he can win. We know he's great at competitions. Could we maybe see him pull off some sort of comp spree and get to the end? Is there any hope here, Alex?
Potentially. I think it could be interesting to see. I mean, I just remember back to Big Brother 12. After Rachel's gone, Brendan is able to find a little bit of room forward where people are trying to weaponize him and kind of use him to go after people that, they don't necessarily want to be targeting, or that they just can't win the competitions needed to make the moves in that moment. So if Cody is able to, if he's a free agent and then he's winning power, I mean, that is a path forward to him finding some stability in this game. The question is he going to be amenable to it? I think more than anything, because he's capable of getting it done. His problem is going to be, he's just going to be out for blood. for Jessica, and he's not going to be wanting to like he'll be making deals but not honoring any of them because he doesn't feel like he owes anyone anything anymore. And that's not going to be conducive to him like setting up long-term standing in this game. So if he can find a way to calm down and kind of mellow out a bit, you know, reestablish connections with maybe Matt or somebody that he actually was ever able to establish a connection with to begin with. I know maybe you don't like the guy for betraying you, but like at least he tried to be your friend. A lot of these people like really never made an effort. So I think that's the path forward for him.
Yeah, I'd say that I think Cody has a chance if I thought he was interested in trying to make the best of that chance. But I think he feels like he doesn't have a chance, and so he's just going to try and do as much damage as possible. He's not interested in trying to play the game or get further or win. He just wants to, make a scene and do his thing and then go to the jury and hang out with Jess. I mean, that's the vibe I'm getting, and it's hard to say that I should be anywhere on his stock that's not selling if that's the case, right, Brent?
Yeah, I'm selling Cody too, and as much as I have been rooting for Cody and Jessica, they just are not very good Big Brother players. They're very rootable from my perspective. I like them because they stick it to the man, and they are a little sassy and feisty, and they don't drink the Kool-Aid that Paul is serving. But other than that, there's really not a lot redeemable here from a game perspective, strategy, or otherwise, because they just, I mean, I'll say this, the only ray of hope is that how does Cody interact with the house once Jessica is gone? I've never really seen that. He could surprise me, but then again, probably not. So I'm going to sell.
All right, Melissa, you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see Cody by himself and see if he can actually make any connections and fight his way through. But I just feel like, yeah, like you guys said, he doesn't care about actually winning because he doesn't see a chance for him to win, which I don't understand why him and Jess didn't see them having a chance at winning. Like, there's always a chance, but they've kind of blown all that this week. So yeah, I unfortunately selling.
All right.
Cody was pretty fired up when he came into this game, but nowadays he's just reminding me of like the nihilists from The Big Lebowski, who just like don't care about anything and just go through, "Where's the money, Lebowski?" Like he's that guy now. He just doesn't care at all.
Yeah, I agree. The fights got knocked out of him a little bit.
Yeah, so when I host these shows, I often look in the little boxes below to see who looks like they're rearing to go, who's got something. And I love when I see Alex with a smirk on his face because I know he's got some sort of comparison or metaphor to make. I saw the little grin there, and I was like, oh, what's coming up next?
Good. Yeah. My smirk is my, light bulb. I guess.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, I've got something good. All right, so let's move on to Alex. How do we feel about Alex and her game right now? It doesn't seem to be in a whole lot of danger anytime soon. She's probably the one person that could stay over Paul if she gets put up next to him. So do we see Alex going home anytime soon? And if not, can she win this game, or is she too loyal to Paul? Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't see her winning the game at all. I want to sell her, but I guess I'll just hold her.
Remember, a reminder to everyone, last week we were getting Melissa go, Alex is the worst. She's so dumb.
She is, though. Like, it's just
so measured.
So annoying. She just kills me. I just had so much faith in her in the beginning, and she just let me down. But yeah, I just feel that she's way too loyal to Paul. If there was any sort of like tiny little snippet that I saw in her of like ever going against him, I would be a lot more into her, just even if she was loyal to Paul right now. But if I saw like a little bit of a flame that she might go after him later, then I'd be like, you know what, I'll go with it. She's doing what she has to do to survive. But I don't see that at all. I don't see her ever turning against him, and it's just, that's that. I don't think she has a good game sense at all. I think that she's just, she thinks she knows the game. For someone who like thinks she knows the game so well, I've never seen someone be so bad at the game. So yeah, whatever, I'll hold her, but I think that she's not long for this world.
Alex, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I would agree, but I've also never seen a recruit so convinced they were a super fan before either.
Yeah.
So this is all very bizarre, I think.
I don't get it. She's convinced
I don't
everyone
get-
she's a super fan.
Robin Cass has told us, confirmed on Twitter, she is definitely a recruit. Like this is, you can drop the charade. Anyways, all right. Yeah, no, I mean, I think I just say hold because everything that was good about where she stood last week remains the same. She's probably not going anywhere anytime soon. Nobody's really targeting her. We've talked about if someone's going to be nominated next to Paul and be safe, it might only be Alex, which really represents a high degree of safety in this game. I mean, there's very few scenarios we could see where someone would win HOH and take her out. Even strangely, like the people that should, like Cody, don't seem to want to and stuff like that. So, I mean, she seems very safe in the game, but all the cons that we've seen from last week and weeks before, they're all still there. She's not going to turn on Paul under any circumstances, seemingly. She is constantly being given hints of things she should be paying attention to by Jason and or Kevin and dismissing them outright without even a moment's thought. So, yeah, as long as those things continue, I mean, she's set up well to, make it somewhere between like 6th and 3rd or maybe even 2nd.
Yeah. I tend to agree. I feel like not much has changed for Alex's game. I personally would hold. I still think she has a decent shot here, but I do feel like she is the front man for Jason at the moment, and so I still feel higher on Jason than her. But man, that group of 3, the Jason, Kevin, Alex contingent, they seem to be in the best spot in the house, and that hasn't changed and seems to be continuing on. Brent, do you agree?
Yeah, I'm going to hold Jessica. I'm going to hold Alex right now, and nothing has really changed from last week. Everything that was there last week is still there, and I don't see a scenario where she leaves, especially going into a week where there's 3 nominees. I know we've joked about the fact that the temptation competition is a good thing for Paul because he can play for safety, but I feel like it's also good for him if he ever actually ended up on the block. If he ended up on the block next to Alex, that's really the only way that he could go home. But if there's someone else there that everyone else can vote for, they're just going to vote for them. So, there's no way that Paul's going to go home this next week because even if the dream scenario of Alex being on the block with him happens, there's nobody you can put up in the 3rd spot that everybody wouldn't just say, let's all vote for them to keep these 2 safe. I mean, whatever. So they're good. They're not going anywhere.
All right, let's talk about Jason. I think, as most people know, I'm pretty high on Jason's chances, but I did see a little bit of stuff here that I wasn't a huge fan of. How easily he was convinced to go, you know what, maybe we should take out Elena, because then Cody will want to just follow Jessica right into the jury house. I didn't like that reasoning. It reminded me of just how much or how little Jason knows about the game. But I still really love the relationships that he has with people. I think his relationship with Mark is so under the radar right now, and that can prove to be very valuable. He's in this group that I think is in the best position in the house. So I'm not ready to sell Jason quite yet or buy him. I think I'm holding on Jason as well, but I'm holding at a pretty high spot. Brent, I saw you kind of moaning about as I was speaking. What do you think about Jason?
I feel like Jason is the greatest metaphor for Jason is he's like the current president of the United States, where whoever speaks to him last is what he believes. That's the thing with Jason. He doesn't really think for himself. If you're the last person to get to him, he's like, oh yeah, that's a really good idea. I see where you're coming from there. That's totally cool. So y'all can flame me if you want if there's any Trump people out there, but whatever. That's what he's like.
He's the guy from Memento. It's just like Etch-a-Sketch every time. It's like, is that the plan? That's what we're doing. That's what we should do.
She looks at his shirt. Whistle nut.
Who's Olay? Is that you?
So to be clear, because people always complain on Twitter, be clear about what you're saying in the Stockwatch. I would buy Whistle Nut, but there's no way he's gonna win the game. I don't think.
Okay, Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think I'm gonna hold him because I like where he is in the game. I like the relationships he has in the game. I like, some of his initial instincts in the game, but yeah, it's whoever gets to him last. It's whoever talks to him right before the vote, and that he just goes this way and that way and this way and that way. It's really hard to follow, where he's going day to day, even minute to minute. So, yeah, I think I'm just gonna hold on Jason for now.
I'm just like, he did go to Alex like after talking with Christmas and Josh, and he was like, it was like he read right off his like, so we're going after Elena, and Alex said, no, dummy, we're getting rid of Jess. He's like, oh, that's not what it says. Okay, hold on, let me.
What does it say in the script?
All right, let's talk about Kevin. I didn't like what Kevin was doing with Cody here. Alex, what do you think about Kevin's game this week?
Yeah, I was really, really high. Maybe I have to, I'm still not like, I still love Kevin's chances. I'm much more likely to sell Jason after realizing how bad he is at studying and how clearly how much trouble he may end up having in some of these competitions down the stretch. Like, I actually have more faith at this point in Kevin to win some of these things. If for no other reason than it's just Kevin seems like a lucky guy. I'm gonna roll the dice with Kevin. He seems like the guy I want to take my chances with.
Yeah, I mean, we pointed it out before, but Jason is just so bad at these stuff. Like, he was studying with Alex multiple times, and just every single question he gets it right. He's like, all right, so what day, Alex? So what day did this happen? He's like, day 18. No, it's day 19. I'm like, oh yeah, day 19.
And it's not that hard. Everything goes in sevens. It's not that hard. Just think of the evictions in terms of sevens. Multiples of find your starting point and then add 7 to each week. Oh my God, it's not that hard, Taran.
And you don't do anything either. Day 21, I did laundry, and then also I think did we eat something too?
Right.
That was a good day. Nothing happens. It's so easy. Compartmentalize these things.
All right, Melissa, how do you feel about Kevin from last week into this one?
I felt like last week he was in a better position just because I feel like now he's kind of on Paul's radar in terms of Paul previously probably thought that Kevin was just super easy to control and that Kevin was just going to do whatever Paul said, and he really didn't have a mind of his own in the game. And now that Kevin has come to Paul saying that he is making side deals, I don't think Paul is going to take well to that. So I feel like Kevin could be in danger if there comes into a position where Paul needs to pick someone to go. But I don't think that's going to be an issue in the next week. I think that there are other people who will become the target before Kevin. But I think down the line, it might pose a problem. So, I'm just going to hold Kevin for now.
Yeah, I gotta say, I think I'm just gonna sell Kevin a little bit. I feel like I really don't like what he's doing here with Cody, and if this is an indication of how he's gonna continue to play, I think it's only gonna continue to go down, and I definitely think he's in a worse spot now than he was last week. So not super high on where Kevin is. Brent, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm also not super high on where Kevin is right now, but I'm gonna hold him because I refuse to sell him because right now, as things stand right now, the people that I would be happiest to win the game are Kevin, Josh, and believe it or not, Christmas. Although I don't know how she would do that, but yeah, I would. I mean, I'm just kind of counting out Cody and Jessica at this point. So, and Elena and Mark, they're not gonna do anything. So it's got to be one of those three.
All right, let's move on to Josh. Let's talk about Josh. We saw him as HOH. He is going to get through his wildcard HOH without making his wildcard move, but did he push it too far? Has he gone down from where he was, or was this move good for him? Is it good that we saw him make any kind of indication that he's willing to turn on Paul? Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. In some cases, this comes down to a case of expected reality versus actual reality, because when Josh won HOH, you could have easily envisioned a scenario where this goes much worse for him and all kinds of chaos ensues. So if you were projecting it out that way, I could see how this was a very, very good week for Josh if you had framed it, in that manner. But I mean, ultimately, I think, yeah, it's not great when you have a clear idea of what you want to do from the outset and you're not able to get that done. Really, it's probably going to be something that frustrates him. And if it's something that frustrates him enough, I mean, it could really affect his game moving forward. Because once he's not HOH and the realization sets in that something that it wasn't really his priority ended up happening, and now it's over and there's nothing that can be done, especially if something were to happen say Cody wins and doesn't target Paul, but does put up Josh or something. I mean, there's a lot of ways that this could kind of unravel for Josh still, I could think. So, I never really was very high on Josh's chances in this game. I feel like I'm just kind of maintaining that, and I need to see something more from him before I give him any kind of real chance here.
Yeah, my stance on Josh had been that I felt like, he may make it to the end, but I feel like it's going to be hard for him to get respect unless he turns on Paul. This week we saw that he's willing to turn on Paul, but at the same time, we also saw that he's not capable of following through and making that move happen. So I feel like we're almost back to where we started with him. So I can't say I'm going to buy him, even though I do feel a little more confident about his ability to ultimately win the game if he is lucky enough to get there. Brent, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm just going to, this is blind faith at this point. I'm buying, I don't care what the logistics say of the stock. I'm buying because I liked what I saw from Josh this week. He gave me a little bit of the Ika-ness that I need from him, and in a very Josh way. Like, I never felt like he was emulating like Ika Wong, like we've joked about before. I really did feel like this was all Josh. I was happy to see a little bit of individuality among the group. Think this how something we haven't even brought up yet is the fact that this whole cult of a house was somehow trying to convince Mark to not use the veto. And even when he did use the veto, they were like, look at him. He's so selfish of a guy. Matt's like, it totally doesn't benefit him at all to use the veto. I don't know why he chose to do that. Like, do you even hear yourselves right now? So at least I wasn't hearing that as much from Josh. Like, he said that amongst some people like Raven to like sort of placate them, but I really feel like he always knew that Mark was going to use the veto, and he just seems like there's more game in him right now. And he said things like, well, why does Paul get to decide? Why are we playing Paul's game? And that's not really been said by many other people. So I'm going to buy.
Yes, Brent is he's fully on tilt here. He's just like at the point. I'm going to keep pushing money into this until
more on tilt. He needs more tiltness.
Sometimes when you dig a hole deep enough, the only thing that makes any sense is to just keep on digging. Get your way out.
Melissa, how do you feel? Are you going to keep digging, or did you ever dig that hole in the first place?
Well, I definitely like Josh a lot more after this week. I was so convinced that he was just going to do whatever Paul said just the rest of the game. But he really impressed me this week with his, ability to think for himself and to have his own opinions on things and not just like listen to Paul and take whatever Paul says as gospel. And I also like the fact that he kept saying, we're not going to give personal attacks on Jessica or Cody anymore. Like that, we're not playing that game. Like, I don't want to do that. That's not me. And I really appreciated that. And I liked the fact that he wanted to talk to everybody, like including Cody and Jessica, or at least Jessica, and wanted to be like, look, like, let's, discuss this, even though she wasn't receptive to it, unfortunately. But, I was impressed with the way he handled himself this week. Although I don't think that this is going to be good for him, because I think Paul now realizes that Josh is not just going to do whatever he says, and that Josh has a mind of his own, and Paul doesn't like when people have a mind of their own. So I think that that's not going to bode well for him in the future. So I think I'm going to hold Josh for now, just because I like the fact that he's willing to turn on Paul in the future, but he might have showed his cards to Paul too early.
All right, let's move on to Christmas here. I still don't understand Christmas. This is like, usually I feel like I am a member of the LFC. I am an analyst of Big Brother. I'm like, all right, come to me with your questions. I will answer them. But right now, I feel like I don't understand Christmas. Melissa, please help me understand. Can you be my analyst here? What is happening with Christmas? Should we be buying? Should we be selling? I don't know. Tell me.
I have no idea. I really don't, because it's not even like oh, well, I disagree with the move, but I see the logic behind it. Because usually I can be like, okay, this is not a smart move, but I get where she's coming from. But in this case, she's literally like, she's on, she's off, she's on, she's off, she's flipping around, she's using her power when she doesn't need to do it. She's like justifying it. Like, she's confusing me so much this week, and I don't understand it, and I don't know where she's coming from, and I have no idea if this is like part of a bigger plan or if she's just acting crazy. So I have no idea. I guess I would buy her because I like the fact that she's seeing things that we were hoping that people would start seeing, where she's telling everyone like, Paul's not always right, or like, let's not always listen to Paul. Like, we don't always have to do what he says. I liked the fact that she was saying that stuff, but then she did other things that made me think that she has no idea what's going on, where she was like, well, I do see that Paul's playing outside sides of the house, but as long as he's with me 100%, then I'm good, which like, he's not with you 100%. So you're wrong on that. So I don't know. I really don't know. I wish I could explain it, but I can't. I guess I don't know. I guess I'll buy Christmas, but I don't know why.
Yeah, I would buy her too for no other reason than who's going to evict her. Like, are you really going to evict her? You're really going to evict the person who can't play in 80% of the competitions. There's just no scenario that I see that she goes out of the house unless she becomes totally unstable. On the other hand, she is off her meds right now, so maybe that's a possibility. So
Man, everyone's buying Christmas. I feel like we're guilty of commercializing Christmas here. It's unfortunate.
No, I'll just hold on Easter. I don't think it's really gonna be a thing. They're like, she's not going anywhere.
Christmas, different holiday. You got me with that question last night.
I know. I like that. It took me a minute when I read it. I was like, I hope Taran gets this quicker than I did. But
I was like, did Alex?
About the same amount of time.
Because like I had asked you a question earlier and you didn't respond because your mic was muted. So I was like, did Alex leave? Did he leave me with like some random question that doesn't make sense? What's happening?
Black Friday. Yeah. Right. Yeah. No. Arbor Day is playing an interesting game, and it's just really weird to watch because I don't think she can win no matter what she does. It's going to be but like Brent said, why would you go after her?
Right.
It's
it's not that hard.
There's a lot of these people who just seem to be floating in like a 2 through 7 limbo to me. Like, where are you going to finish that's not first?
Yeah. Christmas to me, she is somebody that, and it's kind of rare to see this, but she plays very, very well. In that she's like seeing what's happening with Paul. She knows exactly what he's doing. She's able to have really great conversations with Jess, like completely turning Jess's opinion around on her, getting Jess as like a friend for life. Like we'll get an apartment together after this. It's all good. And then also plays incredibly terribly. Like there's no middle ground. She never just plays decently. She's either really good or really bad. And I think that's why she's so confusing. I just feel like the bad is always going to win out over the good. That's what I found out this week for Christmas. So I'm going to sell on Christmas. I feel like I don't like the fact that she can't seem to just like do good things consecutively without putting some bad things in there as well. So that's where I stand on Christmas. But let's move on to Matt. Alex's boy, Matt. Alex, how do you feel about what Matt is doing?
I think I'm gonna sell a little bit on Matt because I was probably the highest on him. I don't like the way the game is materializing around him. I think it's always a warning sign when the person that someone is like the people that someone is most loyal to are starting to question their loyalty and they're not seeing it. That's usually like when the rug drops out from under people, and I think that could be a worry. Particularly for Matt and Raven moving forward, as they're just way too loyal to Paul. He's going to isolate that. He's sick of these showmances. I've heard it a lot this week. Paul is over showmances. He's just tired of looking at it and tired of dealing with it, and tired of being around it. And, if you feel like you have full control the way Paul seems to feel, and, he's been reinforced as such, then you can just get rid of whoever you want for whatever reason you want. And if you're tired of watching people make out, then that is your prerogative now. And other people are going to be easier to deal with. So, he's isolated Jess and Cody, and then he started to separate Mark and Elena from the main group, and now he's like beginning to pry Matt and Raven off of there as well. And I think that's something that they are completely oblivious to. They would be stunned to hear something like that. So that's really concerning, I think.
It almost feels like it was really bad for Matt that jury was delayed a week because he was talking about, I'm going to start playing once jury hits, but then jury didn't hit and everyone else was still playing, and it was just a week too long to not be playing, and now everyone seems to be targeting him. Even Paul is like, I got to get Matt on people's radar. I just feel like you've waited too long. Even if you do wake up now, it might be too late. So I think I too will be selling on Matt. Melissa, what do you think?
I agree with what you guys are saying. Although I think that there are a lot of targets in front of him, which means that he might have some time to set himself up as it gets closer to the end. I think I'm just going to hold him.
Yeah, I'm going to sell Matt, actually, because what he doesn't see is that he's being undermined by quite a few people right now. And by the time he decides to wake up and do something, I feel like he's not going to have any support within the house right now. What I want to ask Matt, if I could, have him in a room like, Dan Giesling and Big Brother 1 for a second, is I know you don't love Jody, Jessica and Cody and Elena and Mark right now. What do they have in common? They're showmances. Who's going to be the only showmans left in the house after they're gone? You. Do you really think that Paul and friends are going to take you further in the house when you are with an unbreakable pair? You are part of an unbreakable pair that is like death in this game. And he just seems so oblivious to the fact that, like I said, his conversation with Paul was so illuminating to me, where he was being totally honest with Paul, like, dude, we take Christmas and Josh to the end. One of us is going to win $500,000. I'm like, dude, by you saying that, you're never going to get there, because if you're thinking that, that means Paul's thinking that. And if Paul's thinking that, that means that you're not going to be there. So, wake up and smell the coffee right now. You actually need people like I know you don't like Cody, but you need him in the game right now. I know you don't like Mark, but you need him in the game right now. You need Elena in the game right now. You five should be together, because this group over here doesn't have any time for one more showmans.
Yes, I agree. And I think when we talk about Raven, which we will do now, I think it's basically the same story here. Not only is their positioning weakening in the game, but people are now getting even more annoyed with Raven. I think Raven is even in an even worse spot than Matt at this point. I personally would also be selling on Raven. Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to sell Raven, especially because I think that even though it's a very, very small chance, I think there's a chance that she might go home this week. So, and if not this week, maybe one of the upcoming weeks. I think people are over her shtick, and I think they just don't want to have to deal with it anymore. So I could see her going pretty soon.
And there's no scenario I see where Raven can win the game. Josh can win the game. Raven cannot win the game. Raven is the Karen of Big Brother Canada 5. He's that's literally what's going on. Raven is the Karen. She cannot win the game. There's no scenario, any person I could put her up against where she would have the votes, especially on a 9-person jury. There's just no way. So I'm selling Raven. And it's so frustrating to me because she's so effing sanctimonious about the game right now, about how she views people in the game. And it's us versus them. But on the other hand, Cody and Jessica, you have added to that by ostracizing yourself in a room and isolating yourself in a room and allowing them to think about you like that. If you were socializing more, maybe they would have options in the game, but there's no options in the game because you're sitting in a room together. So of course Raven thinks you're the enemy and she's the good person. That's how she thinks right now. She's going to have a rude awakening in a couple of weeks when she's quickly evicted, or her boyfriend is.
Brent, if Raven is the Karen of this game, wouldn't you be saying, guys, no, Raven can definitely win the game. Why are you being so mean about it?
Yeah, but I have to like you.
Okay. Alex, do you agree here about Raven?
Yeah. And we've touched on all the things that Raven's doing kind of wrong here. But, one thing we haven't talked about that I think is really, particularly troubling is she volunteered to be a pawn, completely free will. That was just totally her call. And now she seems to be holding it as leverage over Josh and Christmas to a degree. She's dropping these passive aggressive, well, just remember I was your pawn, so you owe me. And there's no quicker way to make someone want to get you out than oh my God, she's still on about that thing that we didn't even make her do. She totally volunteered it. If you're gonna offer yourself up like that, the whole point of it is to show that you're someone who's, loyal, free of charge, right? But now that you're adding this price tag after the fact, you're doing nothing but irritating people.
Yeah, I hated that when she said that to Josh. And they knew she was going to say something like that. And it didn't take 2 minutes for her to say, now you owe me, which is exactly what they said that she would say. And then she quickly said, oh, just kidding. But they're no one believes that you're kidding. You're not kidding. Not really. You really do believe that they owe you because that's how sanctimonious you are about the stupid game.
Yeah, it's like when Brent shades you and then says no shade. It's
There's always an element of truth there.
All right, let's talk about Elena. Kind of a close call. I guess it never really came that close, but she was definitely in a lot more danger this week than I think we even anticipated. Although I guess we did say that there was a possibility she could go home this week, and there definitely was. If Jessica wins that veto, or if Christmas doesn't use that ring of replacement, and Cody wins the veto, Elena almost certainly going home this week. But now that she's potentially survived this week, do we feel like maybe she's back on the rise, or has she evened out? What do you think, Alex?
No, I'm going to sell Elena because I had some thought, before this week that she was somebody who might be, clever enough and intelligent enough to piece this thing together and really figure out how this game is played. And those thoughts are gone. I mean, I've heard enough of Elena now that she's on the block. I've seen enough from her. What happened as soon as Josh wins HOH, she's immediately saying, so I'm good, right? Like this, I've just seen too much in the last 7 days that just demonstrates to me that Elena is not going to be able to catch up to the race at this point.
Melissa, do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to sell Elena because I also had hopes for Elena. I thought that, she's very eloquent, and I thought that maybe she'd be able to talk herself out of a situation that she might find herself in where she, where she needed it, where she had her back against the wall. I thought that she'd be able to figure out a way or maneuver a way to get herself out of it. And we saw what she was doing, and it was just not good. I mean, she acted kind of hostile in her conversations with Josh, and also her logic was like, I just want to stay around so that I can have more TV time. And it's like, that's not going to people aren't going to take that and be like, oh, okay, we got to keep her. So, I was really disappointed in how she, handled herself this week and how she handled the situation. So yeah, I unfortunately I'm going to sell Elena.
Yeah, that grand pitch. I gave up everything to be here. Oh, yeah, you're the only one who's ever done that. That's not 100% of players in the history of this game. Kevin didn't give up his entire family time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, everyone gave up a lot to be here. Like, you think about that for 2 seconds, you realize how flawed it is.
Yeah, I don't like how Elena handles her bad situations, right? Like she gets too upset sometimes. She lashes out at the wrong people, and she doesn't really know how to handle people in the right way. That said, I still feel like I'm not quite ready to sell her yet. I feel like I was down on her last week enough that I think she's about even for me. I do think that, given the right scenario, if she gets back in the right group somehow, if she can kind of skate by these next couple of weeks, I do feel like she's still in it with some kind of shot because she is very good when she's in a good position. So I'm not quite ready to sell. I think I'll hold on Elena. Brent, what do you think?
I'm going to sell on Elena. I just don't see any cojones there. I don't see anything that says to me that she's willing to make the moves necessary to win the game. She just, here's the thing that she's missing. Fans, I'm going to lean in here, okay? Fans would rather you go after somebody and make a move in the game rather than just exist in the game. And that's what's going to earn you fans on Instagram. That's what's going to get people on your side, is when they see you trying to really play the game, go after it. Even if you fall on your face, that's okay. We love you anyway. Just trying to fit in and exist and survive as long as possible in the house. I can't even tell you who finished 5th last year. I mean, who are these people? The people that I remember are the people that made an impression on me. And right now she's doing nothing to help her cause. So sell.
It doesn't make any sense either because, I mean, the stuff what does she want? Just to be funny on the feeds and stuff and be entertaining on the feeds. But the casual watchers are not going to see that because they don't air most of the just random talking on the feeds on the show. So if she wants to get herself on the show, she needs to make big moves. I mean, when she's sitting there saying well, I guess it's good that I'm on the block because I'll be on the show more. It's what is wrong with you? Come on. It just kills me.
Well, she was recruited. That's what's wrong.
Yeah, true.
All right, let's talk about Mark finally, last guy on the list here. How do we feel about Mark's game? It certainly wasn't looking great last week. Is it looking any better this week, Melissa?
I guess it's looking a little better because now I think Elena is a bigger target than him. I think he did a good job of being yeah, it's cool that I'm the pawn. I get it. I'm just going to get the veto and play it. And I think people, as annoyed as they are that he's using the veto, I think they'll understand, or at least they better. But yeah, so I feel like he's in a better position than he was last week, but I don't feel like I want to buy because I feel like he's in a precarious position when it comes to the vote, because if he's not going to vote out Elena, so there's the potential that the whole house decides to turn on Elena and vote her out, and then he's an odd man out voting for someone else. Or he doesn't want to vote against Jess or Elena, and he votes for Raven, and everyone else votes for Jess. or he votes for Jess and Cody gets upset that he voted for Jess. So I feel like this vote's going to be kind of weird for him, and I don't quite know how it's going to pan out. So I think I'm just going to hold Mark for now.
I think Mark has found himself in a pretty decent spot here. Actually, I think like Elena is probably going to go before him now, and then also people are starting to look at Matt and Raven instead of Mark. I think that he's going to be overlooked, and he's also been winning some competitions which people haven't been too concerned about yet. But it does prove that he is capable of winning some competitions here, which is going to be good for him down the road. So I think I'm ready to start buying a little bit of Mark. However, he did use the veto, and that was such a bad move. It really pissed off everyone in the house. And I mean, why would he do that if he trusts them? Alex, can you tell me why would he make such a dumb move by using the veto like that?
Because you have to. That's like, it's so stupid. All right. I can't even entertain this thought. I guess, yeah. I mean, we think about where he was last Monday. Like, he was the target of just stupid torment from Josh. So it was pretty low a week ago. I think, based on that alone, I'll buy, because the stock is, it's going for peanuts and, bits of string from your pocket right now. So I guess in that sense, it's good, right? But I mean, it still feels like, he's found probably a little bit of longevity now, as you talked about. Maybe Elena's going to go before him, and that wouldn't have been the case at all in any circumstance a week or two ago. But he still feels like one of these players that's just playing on borrowed time, because he couldn't really do something if he had to. If his number got called, there's really nowhere from where he can pull to make votes happen. I mean, even Elena has left him. He really is on an island at this point, probably as much as anyone in the house. And, maybe that means it makes sense not to target him anytime soon, but I think it also kind of spells out a situation where it's very hard for me to see him having any kind of like longevity in this game to the point where he could flip something. I don't see that ever happening.
Brent, do you agree?
Hi, Mark is such an enigma for me. I know you feel this way about Christmas, but I feel this way about Mark, because I don't even really know what he would do if he won HOH. I feel like he would, he's to be really real with you guys, you've seen the pictures on Twitter. Like, Mark is like a former fatty, and he's become this muscle god of a guy. But I feel like the former fatty is still in there, and that's fine, but the way he acts is he wants people's approval so badly within the big group that I feel like he would just put Cody up anyway. I really don't believe that if he actually won HOH that he would do anything other than try to fit in with the crowd again and acquiesce and get everybody to like him, because he really doesn't like himself that much. That's my read on watching Mark on the feeds, and hope nobody's offended by that, but that's just how I feel about Mark.
All right. Well, that's your Stockwatch for the week. Some good talk there. So let's get into some questions. First,
well, can we talk really quick about sorry to interrupt everything. Can we talk really quick about the stuff over the intercom today?
Oh, yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Crying, the dogs barking. Do we have any idea what that is?
Nope.
I mean, I don't know. I'm guessing it has something to do with the potential HOH competition. And I have to say, if that's so, I'm really sort of bummed about that, because I feel like a group of 10 is always going to do better than a group of 2 in this sort of scenario. It's literally the same thing happened with Elena when Paul gave her the wrong answer and Paul ended up winning that HOH. If it's another memory competition, I feel like might as well put Paul's name on the HOH door right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's sometimes they do just play kind of random.
It's been happening more though. I mean, for people that don't know what we're talking about, dogs have been barking. They play drums. What else has been playing? They've been playing things over the loudspeakers.
That baby cried, and Jessica and Cody were having sex when it happened, and then Cody had issues after that. That really was a big distraction.
And we're being told in the chat that there's some more stuff has been playing since we started the roundtable. So maybe it is some sort of competition. stuff. But they're concerned that it has something to do with nominations. That doesn't seem super likely. Because we haven't been warned.
I heard Paul was saying, like, if this is some twist to help out Jessica and Jessica ends up staying, I'm going to walk out right now. And I'm like, all of America would be like, girl, bye. Like, that's all we need is for something to save Jessica. Says the guy who got safety for not 1, not 2, but 3 weeks and got 8 friendship bracelets to hand out to everybody. Whatever.
All right. Let's get into some questions here.
It was funny. I just want to say, before we move on, it was funny to me that Paul at one point was like, and it is, it's been such an erratic season that when stuff like this starts playing, for all they know, maybe it's like the den of something else, like the den of babies crying. They've made over the room into a nursery. Paul was saying something like, Big Brother, you can't just play that and not tell us what it means. I'm like, really, dude? Have you not watched this show? Because they can do that all day, and they love to.
He literally, Paul's not a fan of Big Brother, so he thinks his last season is the Bible. Like, whatever happened last season has to happen this season. That's why I said the thing about, the fact that they've been so on the whole jury thing. I would really love for production to throw them a curveball and be like, jury's not happening yet. Did we say anything about jury? No jury yet. We didn't have 9-person juries up until Big Brother 15. And Paul doesn't even know stuff like that. This isn't even the norm right now. I wish they would throw them a curveball and make it a 10-person jury. That way Jessica and Cody and give America a vote. That would really screw with them. And then he would literally have to put up with Cody and Jessica still being in the jury together.
Actually, none of you make jury this year. We're going to deliberate and come up with a jury of your live feeding peers to determine who wins this game.
Yes, the people who watch the live feeds the most are the people who are going to judge.
Yeah.
I.e. us.
Yes, give us all the power.
We're the kingmakers.
Okay. Let's go to the den of questations.
Oh, boy.
Yes. I figured that would finally get it to happen. We have one from Jason on Twitter who asked, how are you guys feeling about the season overall so far? Melissa, what do you think? How are you feeling about this season? Big Brother 19, are you liking it? Are you not liking it? What do you think?
I'm liking the season a lot. I always like it when there's a lot of different people to root for, and I feel like there are a lot of different people that I'm rooting for in this situation. So, and I like the different power dynamics, and I like, I like seeing everything happen. So I've been entertained, at least. I'm hopeful that it stays entertaining and doesn't just turn into a steamroll, because I hate that. So so far I've really enjoyed it. I think it's been a great season, at least for me. I've been enjoying watching the feeds. I feel like there's always something going on, and so yeah, I'm a fan.
I'm getting some criticism in the chat for my den of questation comment. My favorite, someone just said workshop, Taran.
Workshop it.
Well, I don't understand Elena and Mark, because Paul is apparently giving them wrong answers to the things that are being played, which Elena is aware that Paul gave her a wrong answer before. I don't think she knows it was on purpose, but she suspected that it might be. So why are you listening to Paul again about what's being played in the house currently? Again, this kind of competition is made for the group. The group's going to win it. You might as well hand it to Paul if this really is a part of the HOH competition. On the other hand, I would love it if production was just totally effing with them right now. That would be great.
I gotta say, about Big Brother 19, I am liking it a lot.
I forgot to give my opinion on that.
Well, you can let me finish, and then
I like it. No, that's what, I like you snapping me back. Like, bitch, step back. Wasn't done with my answer yet.
Yes, I'm really enjoying this season. It's been a lot of fun. I think that people are concerned that Paul is just going to continue to steamroll and that it's going to be boring. But we really only had that one boring week where he backdoored Cody, and ever since then, it's been pretty exciting every week. Even though sometimes the outcomes have been pretty tame, the week itself has had some intrigue. And who would have thought that a week that we knew was going to be void from the outset would end up being one of the most explosive weeks in the house? I feel like it's been good for people that enjoy drama. I think the strategy has been pretty fun to watch as well. I'm really enjoying this season. I think it's a lot more akin to a season 17 than a season 18. And I myself am enjoying it. Brent, what do you think?
I mean, I'm not going to lie to you guys. Like, if this wasn't my job, I would have probably taken a week or two off of the feeds right now. It's really tough for me to watch because the people that I'm rooting for are sort of unrootable, like Cody and Jessica. I mean, I want to root for them, but they're really, really terrible game players. On the other hand, Josh and Christmas, I feel like I'm trying to root for them. But on the other hand, I don't really feel like it's in their game interest to go against Paul right now because Paul really wants to keep them in the game like long term. On the other hand, they're probably going to have to evict Paul in order to win the game. So that is problematic, but I really hope that something happens with a power shift on Thursday, but I've been wishing for that all season and nothing's really happened. Even when we did get a power shift and Jessica won that endurance competition to beat, when it was like 10-2 and somehow Cody and Jessica still won the HOH, she was stupid enough to put up Ramsey as a nominee and then you saw what happened. So, whatever.
All right, Alex, what do you think? You liking the season? No?
Nah. That's fine. I mean, I think I would put it between 17 and 18. I think you're probably right. It's probably closer to 17. I like it more than 18. But, I think it's definitely missing something for me. I mean, I think there's a lot of, kind of meh people. And even from the onset, I think there was a lot of people in there. It's like, what was the what was the goal in casting this person? What is this person doing there? I think this season got off to a really weird start with kind of Megan quitting and Christmas getting hurt and it's just been very bizarre, I think, in a lot of ways. I think we've been very fortunate that we've gotten some of the moments that we have because I think it's, we've talked about how many times things have happened, like right move, wrong reasons this time. Like these people aren't doing things because they're the right moves. Like in a lot of cases, they've just done things because they're like, oh, let's see what happens now. And things have we've kind of been the beneficiaries of that from a viewing perspective, but I'm not ready to go ahead and chalk it up to a bunch of great personalities. I think sometimes it's very frustrating for me to watch people make mistakes that I've seen made maybe a dozen times in past seasons and just know if you would have just bothered to even read a summary of seasons that were played before, you would know not to make this mistake. That gets frustrating after 19 seasons a little bit for me, but ultimately, I think, it's better than it could be. There's a lot that's going right. I think, you guys talked about it last night. I think the temptation competition is actually surprisingly interesting. It adds nuance and it isn't, too broken one way or another. I think, again, it's just shifting the game further away from what I appreciate, which is social nuance and strategy and towards winning competitions to save your life, which I mean, if that's the direction we're going, then that's the way we're going. That's fine, I guess. But yeah, I mean, all in all, enjoyable. It's still I'm hanging in there. It's keeping my interest. I just wish we had an innovative person like a Vanessa, someone who was driving strategy I haven't seen before. I think that's the difference between a 17 and this. Yeah,
I was gonna say really quickly, the comparison to 17, I guess is apt, but Vanessa did things in the house that I had never personally seen before, with those whole 1 week, 2 week deals, incentivizing people, needing reasons to put people up. And I know we laughed about it, but it was so fun to watch. And even when I was rooting against her, I didn't really have any malice in my heart towards her. I never really, I wanted her to stay in the game because she was a fun villain. She was a villain that I love to hate. I feel like Paul is a villain I'm hating to hate. There's no real fun for me. And I listened to Rob on Thursday night about that whole comment about, Paul may be the best reality TV contestant of all time. And I was like, girl, step back. I mean, really? Because I think that is a pretty high bar. I mean, really the best reality competition person of all time. I don't think Paul is anywhere close. I think I think it's more frustrating for me as a live feeder because he vet-splains everything and he thinks everything is exactly like last season. So when he's so indignant about it when it doesn't go the way that it's supposed to go, because he's like, well, but this didn't happen last season. This isn't the way things are supposed to go. I'm like, dude, you're on Big Brother. Not last season isn't the Bible. Last season is the New Testament version of the Bible. It's not really the Bible. It's just one piece of it.
What's that book with all the weird stuff that nobody ever said? Deuteronomy. That's the one. That's the most bizarre book that just doesn't fit in with any of the others. That's what BB-18 was. Nobody consults that.
Well, plus right. I think it's interesting that Paul he's never watched Big Brother, and not only that, he didn't even watch his own season. So he has no idea what the fans like or don't like. He doesn't have any idea how the mechanics of the game work apart from exactly what he did. So it's just he really doesn't know the game very well. He just thinks he knows the game very well, and everyone seems to believe him because he's a vet.
Okay, next question is from Joe H on Twitter, who asks, assuming Jess is evicted, what would your plan be going forward if you were Cody? Should he take Kevin's deal and not target Paul? What do we think? What should Cody's move be if he's trying to win the game? What should he be doing? Melissa, what do you think?
I think he should be trying to expose the cracks in Paul's giant, massive alliance. I think he should be putting up, Alex and Raven or something like that, just because then finally Paul has to pick a side. And they'll be like, wait a second, why is he siding with Alex? Or wait a second, why is he siding with Raven? I thought he was on our team. So I think he needs to expose Paul somehow. And I think the best way to do that is to put someone from each side on the block and see where Paul's true allegiance lies.
I feel like he needs to take a page out of, not that he would know who this person is, Dan from Big Brother 10's book, and play a little bit of nominee roulette and just say from the outset, look, I'm not nominating Elena and Mark. You guys are going to decide who the people are that go on the block. And don't let anybody know ahead of time. Just have them in a room. So you've got to give me 2 people that you're going to name as the nominees right now, right in front of everybody. And if you don't give me the nominees, I'm going to put you on the block. That's what he needs to do. He needs to get people fighting with each other. He needs to expose everybody's true alliances, get everybody in a room and get people talking to try to change the dynamics of the game. But I don't know if Cody is that person. If I was the Cody in this situation, that's what I would do. But I don't know that he has it in him.
Yeah, when you said Dan season 10, I thought, oh, make a secret alliance with someone. Why not? Kevin is trying to approach you to work with him. Like, why not just, if you're really like, I don't want to work with Paul, then say, you know what, Kevin, here's what we'll do. Let's secretly work together, you and I. Like, let's do this together, and the 2 of us can have a secret pact, and we'll work together. We'll work in our best interests. I'll consult you before I make a move. And then you get to basically have both, the best of both worlds. You get some sort of ally that's trying to protect you. I mean, obviously, Kevin, not the most secretive person, but people haven't really ferreted out his whole relationship with Paul. They know that they're close, but not how close. So, try to make secret allies. Secret allies are so valuable. I really think that Paul's secret relationship with Alex is really one of the reasons why he's able to run this house. So the secret ally thing can never be
I don't know. He also could work with Alex as well, because Alex has said that she still trusts him in some way, and there's he does have a soft spot for her, and it wouldn't go against whatever moral code he has in his head. So I feel like and he likes Jason. So I don't know.
I don't know why.
Unfortunately, Jess told him no go on that one.
Yeah. I don't know why Jess and Cody this week, like when Josh approached Jess to talk, I don't know why. I mean, I know why, but I don't know why they didn't just sit there and say, look, people will not expect us to work with you because of our falling out last week and basically every week of this entire game. No one would suspect it. Let's figure something out. We don't want to get you out. We're going after Matt and Raven. We don't want you out. So let's do something together. And I don't know why they didn't do it. I mean, I get it. They're stubborn. Like they're too hard-headed to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but it's just so short-sighted to not do that, and it's frustrating.
I mean, I thought we're talking about some specifics, but I think just in terms of general things that Cody should be doing. I mean, ever since he got back in the house, it seems like he doesn't want to trust anybody, and I understand that. I mean, that's a natural reaction. But the only way forward in this game is working with people and finding people who are willing to work with you. And if his reaction to all these conversations is, I'll hear what they say, but it's just in one ear and out the other because I can't trust anything they say anymore, then you're never going to be able to build up from anything. There's never going to be like groundwork between you and somebody to really establish any kind of thing that you can move forward with. So I think more than anything, more than even the who, is just like he needs to focus on kind of trying to rebuild some bridges if he can. I mean, he could get Mark and Matt back if he wanted to. I feel like there's still roads for that. They were just so naturally close. I feel like natural connections usually are powerful. If you lose them, you can often, we've seen people gain them back. And I think in addition to that, I mean, it's just something where he needs to not be burning bridges going forward. He needs to make sure that, all his conversations from now on are much more tempered than they've been in the past.
And even if he doesn't fully trust anybody, they could have at least gone up to Josh this week and pretended to trust him for this 1 week, just so that he doesn't nominate them because he's HOH. It's like they could have just made stuff up, said whatever they needed to say. They could have talked to Christmas, and like Jessica could have been like, okay, Christmas and I kind of have like a connection. Let me try and play that up right now because I know that like she's in Josh's ear. But instead, they didn't do anything. And God, so disappointing this week.
What I'd love to see from Cody, and obviously it's not going to happen because Jess would never give permission for it and he would never do something against Jess, but I would love for Cody, as soon as Jess is evicted, to run up to Alex and be like, look, I'm so sorry. You know how much I've always wanted to work with you, but Jess was so jealous. She held me back. Now that she's gone, we can work together. I will be totally loyal to you. Alex would eat that up, and I think she would totally be like, yes, let me use Cody in this game. He totally would be loyal to me. I feel like that could work, but I don't think he'd ever do that, obviously. He would never want to throw Jess under the bus like that, but it would be fun to watch. All right, one more question. And I want to present this the way that I saw it on Twitter. I saw Ari Ferrari on Twitter responding to a tweet by John Krause, and he said, this is a very important question to answer, Taran. I look forward to the entire LFC crew debating this. Give us what we want. So I was like, okay, wow, this must be a really great question. I went up to the tweet from John Krause on Twitter. He was with me this morning. He asks, ding, marry, kill. Christmas is crutches, Christmas is walker, or Christmas's scooter. How do we feel about these three things? Alex, do you want to go first?
This feels like the right time for like a sight gag, like where I row the canoe by or something, right? I don't know. I am on a couch.
Look,
I'll take the elevator.
Rather than answer this question, I feel like y'all should just go to Twitter and go to my timeline. I retweeted. Somebody made a video of Christmas backing up in her scooter, and they made like the beep, beep, beep. Yes. You know, like when a truck like backs up and that sound. They finally did that, and I thought it was so hilarious. So like that's way more fun than me trying to ding, marry, kill these three inanimate objects.
I agree. I do love the squeaky wheel. One thing I'm really still waiting on is like, you know, and we've already had stupid circus theme. Like, why can't we give her a little clown horn when she goes by? Like, that's all I'm waiting on.
I think we can all agree that the scooter is the best. It may be the best thing that's ever been on Big Brother. It's wonderful. So I could just watch her just scoot around the house all day. It's great. All right, that's our roundtable episode for the week. Let me know if you have any ideas for a hashtag, any of you three or anybody in the chat. There's plenty of stuff to look out for in the future. As I've mentioned, the Taran Show with Audrey Middleton will be dropping tomorrow. Woo-hoo. Man, I really, really enjoyed talking to Audrey. I thought we had an awesome conversation, not only timely, but just in general. She really is an awesome and very intelligent person, and I really enjoy what she's doing with Sequester and all of that as well. So make sure you check that out. It's good stuff. You can also check out our live feed update tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, and of course, we will be back Wednesday night to recap the Wednesday night episode. We've got a very special guest for that one. We'll be talking to Malcolm or Crawford. Wait, hold on. Brad, can you help me out?
Yeah, I wanted to know all of the names that he has been called. I wanted to have that down because I'm the LFC on Wednesday night with him, and I want to have a good time.
Yes,
meet him.
We're gonna get Cameron on the show. It'll be great. Looking forward to Cameron. And of course, make sure you check out the American Ninja Warrior podcast that I do with Lita. Lots of great stuff there. And of course, but first, a Big Brother 2 blockumentary. You can check that out whenever you want on RHAP-ups.com. Do we have a hashtag here?
No, but I thought there was one more, Carmen. Remember they called him Carmen?
Carmen, yes.
Sorry. It just tickles me so much because it's so not consistent. Like, there's been like 5 names for him.
I'm seeing hashtag glimpses of gameplay.
I need to start writing down hashtags. I'm terrible with this.
I feel like you usually have a pretty good one, Alex.
Yeah, but usually I just pull it out at the last second, and I'm like, I should have been writing these down.
Yeah. All right. I'm not really seeing much else other than glimpses of gameplay. So I guess we can go with that one. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we take off?
Happy to be here. I'm just kidding about I'd still watch the feeds. I probably wouldn't just watch them as much as I am right now. I'm hoping that something happens to shake up the house, and it makes it more enjoyable to sit and talk with you guys and bitch to the people who are watching on the feeds out there with me because they feel my pain.
I saw a
hashtag dandruff up for this. That's what I was trying to remember. Thank you.
I love it. Okay.
God's work out there. Thank you.
Yes. You saved us, RJ. Hashtag dandruff up. I love it. You can follow us on Twitter. I am at Armstrong Taran. Brent is at One Lucky Gay. Alex is at Alex Kidwell. And Melissa is at It's Melissa with 3 A's. For Melissa, Alex, and Brent, I am Taran Armstrong. Hashtag dandruff up. We will see you next time.